Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast, Heavenly Enlightened. This is our fifth episode, and today we will be discussing relationships when it pertains to domestic violence. It's going to be very, very deep. I'm nervous.
Very deep for you.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Very different. We have a very special guest here. Who is this?
His name is still loading. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm between two, so maybe next week
Okay, we'll
I'll
have
have
a
a
name.
name. Yeah.
Well, he's her little support animal
Yes.
for today.
Yes. And
Uh,
every day after this.
and every day after that. Okay. I am super excited for this episode.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Mhm.
Okay, it's okay. It's gonna be a lot more Wendy speaking because pertains a lot about you and your experience when it comes to DV. I
Mhm.
also want to put it out to the viewers that I have my laptop here today for this episode in particular because I do want to come at this episode very mindful and also be very aware when it comes to statistics, just speaking and being the educational route, and also asking you follow up questions. So, without further ado,
Let's
let's get into
start.
it. Okay, so tell me what you want to tell me.
So I want to start off in the beginning. I feel like
Okay.
this is very, very important. Um, so when I was a senior in high school,
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I remember school had just started, I think.
Your senior year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was this class.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of schools have them, but they're like classes specifically for foster youth.
Okay.
So, and that
Like
was usually,
EOPS,
yeah,
but in high
basically.
school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. EOPS
And
is basically it's mainly
support group.
yeah, like a support group for foster youths that are found in colleges' campuses.
But the one that I would say the main difference between the EOPS and then the one that was like a class at school was the one at the high school was more so for support when it comes to like peer support,
Okay.
connections, like if you need like an iFoster phone or things like that.
Okay.
Versus I feel like the EOPS at colleges, it's more so financial, and
Okay.
it's also like they do support you, but I feel like it's more when it comes to like financial things. Like they can cover certain things versus in high school I feel like it was more so like a support group.
Okay.
Hmm.
So just for our viewers, EOPS stands for Extended Opportunity Programs and Services.
Hmm.
So high school.
So high school I was in that class and there was two Spanish speakers, so it was me and a friend of mine,
Okay.
and the teacher had let us know like, hey, we're gonna have a new student coming. And back in the day I was a social butterfly. Best believe if you were new at school, I was probably the first one to go and talk to you, the first one to take you to your classes, invite you over to the lunch. Like, I, yeah,
Just
you knew
very
me.
welcoming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Which by the way, she still is like this. I think she's just more a little bit more cautious.
yeah,
But she's still the social butterfly, I think.
we'll see.
We'll see.
I
Okay.
feel like I still struggle with it, but I mean, it is like a night and day difference when it comes to like how I'm socially now versus how I was before. Like before, I could say I was a social butterfly
Okay.
with light and just like, yes. But so I met him. Oh no, no. So the teacher tells us we have a student coming. It was between me and my friend to speak Spanish
Yeah,
because
to translate.
she had said like he was a Spanish speaker and if we wanted to volunteer to go help. My friend didn't want to for reasons she has, and I was like, okay, like I'll do it. Mind you, at that time, it was around the time that COVID, we had just gotten back into school.
Okay.
So COVID was still around. We had our masks on.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
so, boom, this guy comes in and he's very different.
Different how?
The way he was dressed,
Okay.
very, yeah, I would just say like timid, and just the way he dressed, like, future reference, he was from Sinaloa. So if you know how they dress with the tight jeans and the hat and the bunny shirt and all that, like, that is like very, like, you can tell now that I know that that's how it is, because I
Yeah.
have a brother that lives out there too. Now I can understand. But yeah, it was completely different. He looked different in that sense, like just
Mhm.
the way he carried himself. Mind you, he still had his mask. So this is just me going off of his, like, what he's wearing and from his eyes, and that's it. And he had these, I don't know if I want to say that,
Okay.
but he had these beautiful long lashes, long curly lashes.
Okay.
So I had seen that, and I was like, oh. So I'm
All right.
going and I'm helping, right? I'm helping him. We're setting him up for like the school or the student portal, getting him into like his classes, uh, showing him like where he goes to like check his grades, blah blah blah. The thing is, while we were doing that, his computer crashes, and my teacher's like, "Hey, like, lunch was going on
Okay.
while we were in class." And she was like, "I trust you, like, go take him to the front, change computer, see if he could switch on a computer and then come back." So I was like,
Okay.
"Okay." So boom, I'm going, and God, I take off my mask, because I'm ready to be seen. Yeah.
Oh.
And he seen that I took off my mask, and that was the first time that he was like seeing me. So he took off his. I was like, oh.
Oh, you thought he was fine shit.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was like, okay. So we went, boom, helped him out. One of the first things that I noticed is he had this friend in school that he would call his cousin. And
Okay.
in my head, it was like, okay, so you're not completely alone.
Okay.
Okay. So I kind of, after realizing that, fast forward, I helped him out. Boom, class ended. Fast, like, whatever.
Mhm.
But that was like in the back of my head. So I wasn't hanging out with him every day at lunch, because I was like, you have a relative.
Yeah.
So it's like you have people you can hang around with. You're not completely
Yeah.
alone. Moving forward, we start talking,
Okay.
and then it turns into, honestly, this is so sad. I don't know how we ended up dating. I don't know if he even. I remember
Asked you?
I don't remember if he asked me, but I remember I asked him. I was like, "So what are we? Like,
Oh,
what
okay.
are we doing?" And this is embarrassing,
Oh.
but he, and I should have known. Like, I should have
That should have been
known.
your first red flag?
He was like, "We're everything but nothing."
Oh.
Right. I was
Wait, what?
like, what did you say? And he had said that. And mind you, this is why I'm saying, like, it's deeper than what he had said, because he goes on and he's like, well, I asked you out once, and he did. And I had told him, like, I wasn't ready.
Uh-huh.
He was like, well, I asked you and you said no. So now we're everything you want us to be. We could be that, but we're nothing at the end of the day. So I was like, oh, so because I wasn't
Wow.
ready, now you're on your high horse, and now you want to make me, you see what I'm saying? Like, that
Yeah.
dynamic of like, rejection is not your friend. So that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, I should have paid more attention to that, but I
Mhm.
didn't. So boom, we started
How
dating.
old were you when you met him? Because you're senior year, so
I
are
was
you seven?
17.
Okay, you're 17 when you first met him.
Yeah. And
Okay.
he was
So
said,
very like at that age of like where like even that comment now, like we're everything. But what do you say?
we're everything but nothing.
But nothing. Like now I would be like, oh ding ding ding, that's like what? Like
I was just like, I just wanted clarity on it. And
yeah,
when
yeah,
he
yeah.
gave me the clarity, I settled for it. Even though, like, please, if anyone ever tells you that, run. Because what do you mean? Like, I'm not, no, you're not. Don't give everything to someone that's gonna end up giving you nothing. Like, don't.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of foreshadowing here, but this is
Yeah.
what comes with dealing with that type of person.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was
Would you call it
17,
narcissistic? Like dealing with a narcissistic.
very, and
Okay.
manipulative,
And very
very.
manipulative. Okay, so we're getting to the point where that would have like from the normal perspective, but again, you were only 17. Like to me, hearing that would have been like first red flag? Like, what do you mean? That's not a direct answer.
It was that, and also because at that time, like I said, like I was single
Yeah.
and I had never dated a Hispanic, before.
Okay.
And because we are Hispanic, there's a lot of like costumbres, like
Yeah.
customs that we're used to that in my dating life it wasn't reciprocated because they weren't Hispanic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so like certain things like nicknames de cariño, like I was just like, oh my
Out
God.
of love.
Yeah. Or like he was very like he would open like get the chair for me, open the door. When I would walk up the stairs and down the stairs, he would never let me hold the rail. He would always hold my hand.
Oh,
He was
okay.
very gentleman. Like if I had a skirt on or anything, and like or my shirt or anything needed adjustment, he would go in front of me. Like he would cover me. Like he was such a gentleman. Such like
So that overshadowed his comment of we're
yeah,
everything,
cause
but not everything.
yeah. And then like
Okay.
once like I was like, what do you mean? Like I don't like that. And then he kind of like told me, well, I asked you and you said no, so this is my answer. I don't know what it was, but we ended up making it official.
Okay.
However, he was he got placed into the school and into that program because he was in the foster care system. That's why he was in that class.
Okay.
However, there was so much confusion when it came to his age, when it came
Mm.
to whether he was a senior or a super senior, or like
Yeah.
a lot of questions. And even so, I would have God, I should have listened. But I had some teachers that would come up to me and they would like I was cool with them, and they would tell me like, "Hey, like he's not 18. Like I hope you know he's not 18." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, you guys are teachers, you guys know. So like what do you mean?" Like, and I was like, "No, he told me." One day I ended up asking him like, "Show me your ID because I need to see who you are." Like
Yeah.
the teachers are telling me, and he was like, okay, so you're telling me that if a quantity like if numerous people are telling you something about me, you're gonna believe them.
Okay.
And I was like, well, these are teachers, like what do you think? Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking like if you have nothing to hide and you appreciate and love me, then it shouldn't cost you anything to
Mhm.
just take a quick picture of your ID, and I already know your name. You can hide your address if that's what you're scared of. Like just show me your school ID. And that was one of the first things that he did, where he was like he stopped talking to me because I chose to believe those things. He was like, no, like he didn't send me the picture. He was just like, all right, that's what you want to believe, bet, but you're gonna miss out on me. And in my head, I was like, I was going crazy because I was like, damn, like, am I doubting him? Like, am I
Yeah.
allowing these people to like shift the way I see him? Like, does that even matter? Like,
Mhm.
and I didn't ask for it. I went back to him and I was like, "Oh, you're right." Da da da. He ended up showing me his ID, and he was that age, so it stated. So I was like, "Okay." And then I feel like that's when it kind of that like power trip of like, if I don't talk to her, she comes back. You know what I mean? Like if I give her little, she gives more.
Oh.
Is I feel like that dynamic started happening,
Wow.
and
From that one incident, it's like he gained that inside of you.
yeah.
Like the moment I stop giving
Mhm.
into her, she wants more of me.
And that causes me to pour more into him because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what am I doing? Like, and then I feel bad because, like I said, like I was fighting with, like, okay, well, classmates are telling me that he was a senior last year. My teacher is telling me, hey, that's not like, and it was just so confusing. So in my head, I
Mhm.
was like, maybe he's right. Maybe I am one of those girls that are just gonna let people say certain things about my partner, and I'm just gonna choose to believe it
Yeah.
and go against him. And that's never the type of partner that I've been, never the type of partner that I want to be.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like I'm sorry. And when I wasn't wrong, it didn't cost you anything to just show me, but
Yeah.
that was like the baby steps of
A foreshadowing.
mhm.
That's crazy though because I do want to say that I learned this recently like if you come from another country
Mhm.
like we're going to say Mexico because I met someone recently from there.
Mhm.
They could be 20 and in high school. because
Oh
the way
yeah,
that their academics, they have to
system
start
is
like
different.
basically like kind of try to meet them halfway. But like I met a 20-year-old and he was a senior in high school, and I felt so bad because I was like, Are you for real, like a senior in high school?" I was
Mhm.
like, "You don't mean college?" And he's like, "No, high school." And so then I learned that they hold you back even if you're at a certain age because they need you to basically gain those educational like aspects to
Mm.
then go into a freshman in college. I didn't learn that.
Well, from the ID, I don't think that was his situation. I just think like I said, like it was maybe like a power thing or like an ego thing. Like
Okay.
choose to believe me. If you don't, me vale. Like it is
Yeah.
what it is. Um, but yeah,
So
so
that
that
happened.
that was our relationship in the beginning.
Mhm.
Then it started affecting my friends.
Oh.
So I've always been a female. I don't want to say I always because things changed, but
Mhm.
when I was younger, I was always surrounded with males. Like there was hardly any females around me. It was like I always had homies. I was always surrounded with people that had good and bad intentions
Mhm.
in males. So it's like I was just, yeah, like I said, like a social butterfly, but like overly. And that led to me having people that were lustful, disrespectful, liars, fake to be around me. But um, I also had good people that were around me and didn't see me as that and saw me as a person. So as he started coming around and after we made it official, he started saying who I was hanging around with. He would mention how in Mexico, because like I said, he's from Sinaloa, so
Mhm.
there were just certain things that were seen like frowned upon, like women weren't seen with men, like that wasn't normal, like females, like you couldn't have guy friends if you're a female and vice versa. And I never understood that because I can, you know what
Mhm.
I mean?
So do you think that's where our machismo from our culture kind of ties in a little bit?
I feel like that's exactly where it stems from. Like those
Yeah.
examples, those like elder examples of that.
Which machismo, how do I explain it in English? It's like stereotypical roles of like what a man should do and what a woman's roles should do. Like a
Mhm.
woman is, especially in our culture, a woman is expected to clean the house, be a stay-at-home mom, cook for your husband, like be right there, like basically hand and foot for him. Anything he needs, you are to provide.
Mhm.
Where a man's role in a Hispanic culture is to go to work, provide those that money, financial dependence for his household. So
Mhm.
a machismo is kind of like what you're saying, like especially in the culture, like you're not supposed to have men around your
Yeah, it's
female.
only supposed to be like your girlfriends
Hmm.
and your man and that's it. So,
So it started affecting your friends.
it was started there
Hmm.
and I can't say no. I was so he was trying to get me to like, remove friends and it got to a point where he became known at school because he dressed different, he looked different. Like at some point I was at that school for 2 years. I have never seen like it's like as soon as he came to school, like everyone's dress was different. And then at that time, like the whole tacuaches in school was like a thing with like
Hmm.
si quema, no quema cuz and the
Yeah.
Edgars, and then now we have uh alucin, that's like the type of style dress that he would like present himself in.
Okay.
So it was just like, there's kids in school that speak Spanish that are affiliated with those kind of groups and he fit in perfectly. He made friends. And so those friends were also my friends. So he would often cut those cords, those friendships for me. So I
Mm.
wouldn't be around. I'd be in class. He'd be in lunch. And I would come out. And he'd be like, oh, you don't, like, I already talked to this person, this person, this person. Like, I already told them, like, I'm not for that. Da da da. They respected it. It is what it is. So I was just like, oh,
Wow. So he started. isolating you in
Mhm.
that sense. Like
Mhm.
his friends who he approved then
Mhm.
became your friends, but the ones who he was like, nope,
Well, no,
had
that's
a
the
private.
thing. They
Okay.
were my friends before them, but
Oh, okay, okay.
because he started hanging around that group because they spoke Spanish and he
Yeah,
spoke
yeah.
Spanish, um he started hanging around my friends and made them his friends and
Okay.
also removed them as my friends, but they were still friends with him. Does that make sense?
Okay,
So he took
so
my friends,
okay, I get it. So like he basically like
stole my friends.
yeah, stole your
Mhm.
friends. Okay, okay. I misunderstood. I thought he meant like what I thought was like he made a group of friends who he approved and then you were then brought in and
Mm-mm.
so those were the only ones that you could hang out with. But that makes sense. He basically isolated you from your
Mhm.
friends.
And became friends with those people.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though his whole thing was like, oh, it's because like they're gonna do harm to you, blah blah blah. Then why are you around them?
Mm.
I should have asked those questions, but I didn't.
Okay.
So those are more so my acquaintances. That's why when he would tell me like, oh, I already talked to this person, that person, like I don't want to see you speak to them. Like there's no reason for you to speak to them.
Wow.
Then he started slowly getting into my close circle.
Oh.
At that
Okay.
time, I had a really, 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 really close person. His initial is K, and I really did. I seen him as like a brother. I anytime I was going through something, like I knew I could turn to him. He was always supportive. He would come around like my foster family. Like he was really, really family. That was a solid friend. Like, and I remember with my partner at the time,
Mhm.
he had dropped me off at my aunt's house. And he had told me like he was like, "Oh, I have a feeling like he's gonna hurt you. Like you're like the closest people to you tend to hurt you." And I had already opened up to him about my past and stuff, like like
Mhm.
with my exes, and then also in the system. And he kind of you no, he didn't kind of he did he used that to his advantage. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Don't you say like the closest people to you hurt you, and even your family." And because he knew that I considered him as family, he kind of used that.
It was a double sword.
And I remember he used to have these collares, these necklaces,
Mhm.
and he gave me this blue one, this blue beaded one. And he was telling me that like I don't want him to like hurt you, like I love you and I would never do anything like, to hurt you, but this person I don't know, like he's hanging around guys and da da da. Da.
So putting
And
doubt in your head.
basically,
Yeah.
and I remember that day like I said before, I've always been stubborn and hard headed. If something doesn't go, something doesn't go. But I feel like this was the last bit, like
Mhm.
before I actually like that part of me like erased for a bit.
Mhm.
He told me that, and I looked at him and I was like, I already told you I'm not cutting him off. Like
Mhm.
unless he disrespects you or flirts with me, I take that as disrespect, because if you know and you're my friend that we're in a relationship, that I'm in a relationship, and
Yeah.
you're flirting with me knowing that I'm in a relationship, to me I don't take that as, oh, you just have a crush. No, to me, I'm taking it as, you know what's going on. You know I have a commitment, and you're still choosing to
Mhm.
flirt with me. Therefore, you must think that I'm like X, Y, and Z. Like these females out here that don't have morals. I'm not that person. So when you flirt with me, you're disrespecting my relationship.
Mhm.
And that's when I told them, I was like, that's the only form or way that I would cut a friendship off, a male friendship, is if he disrespected me or disrespected you. And I took off
The beaded
the beaded necklace
necklace.
and I
Mhm.
gave it to him. And boy went home crying, and then that was that. That didn't last long. I ended up in the future, I had to cut things off with. It got to a point where I had to. I can't remember too much of what had happened, but I believe, oh, yes I do.
Okay.
So I had to cut him off in the future, because like I said, that was us dating senior year when I was in school with him.
Mhm.
Once my friends started getting cut, once my close circle was kind of becoming distant because I was always around him, um in school It was already the second semester, and I only needed one more class to graduate. And at that time, like I said, because of COVID, I had gotten sick. And like I said, I only needed one more class, but because I got sick and all my stuff was in the lockers and stuff, I was out of school for like 2 weeks. They had my Chromebook. I didn't have my workbooks, no, nothing. So my grades and like, as you know, in school, there's 6 classes in a day. So it's like if you miss 2 weeks,
Yeah.
oh my God, you're missing out on projects, on tests, on
Assignments.
everything. And I
Yeah.
couldn't get a hold of my teachers, so I was informing him about that I was so stressed. Also, I was working, so I was just like, it was overload for me.
Mhm.
And he used that to sit there and tell me like, well, you only need one class, or you only need to finish one more class, so why are you in all 6? So I was like, you're right. And so I had told them, about the program, and how like certain, because of that foster youth class, sometimes we're kind of favored,
Mhm.
like the foster youth, like counselors and teachers, like they might favor us a little bit more because of our situation. So I had told him like, oh, like I'm gonna speak to my teacher and see like what I could do. So she basically told me, I spoke to the teacher. Fast forward, I ended up speaking to my foster mom. Fast forward, I after school one random day, um my foster mom had told me like, hey, like there's this school online, you can finish your classes and get it done, graduate early, and you don't even have to worry about making up the other stuff because you don't need those are just extra classes.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay. And I remember I called him and I told him what was going on, what I was thinking about. He's like, do it. So I was like, all right, do it. Mind you, it was my senior year. Mind you, I didn't really go out party or go to homecoming events or school events because we weren't allowed to in our different foster homes. And as all the girlies know, in our last year, we have winter formal to look forward to, and we have prom.
Yeah.
So with me switching, I was already not talking to my friends. So it was really like whatever to me. And I was so stressed. I was like, screw it. Like, I'm going to finish. I was already in a scholarship program that I
Okay.
had gotten accepted to. I was working. I had a plan. I wanted to go to college. I already had my job. Basically, I had everything planned out for me. I graduated high school early, a couple months earlier. Um,
So you had a whole like goals already set in mind for your senior
yeah.
year of like what you wanted to accomplish.
Mhm.
You saying that though, the like him telling you to do it for the online program, I don't know. It's maybe just because I'm like hearing this, like, and to note for the viewers too, like me and Wendy weren't living again in the same foster home. That'll be another podcast episode.
Mhm.
But during this time when you met him, we weren't living together, and I'm just hearing like your perspective and like what you're telling me, and it's just like in a way it's like I picture like those puppets that you
Mhm.
the ones that you hold from the strings,
Mhm.
and I'll put a picture up,
Mhm.
like you're able to control them, right, in any
Mhm.
shape or form. And I feel like with you being sick those 2 weeks, of course he didn't plan you being sick, right,
Mhm.
those 2 weeks, but him suggesting you to like do the online program continues to like isolate you even more from like
Mhm.
your senior year.
And he had told me that he was like, oh, why don't you do online? He's like, you're already stressed. Like, you only need one more class. You're doing
Again,
this to
turning it back
yourself.
to you.
Mhm. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? You're right. And then I was already not talking to my friends, so I was like, what?
What do
What
I
am I
have to look for?
losing?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I was like, all right, screw it. I already had my plan. So I was like, he was making me feel like you finish high school, you already have your plan. You can advance. Like, you
Mhm.
can do more than stressing and doing all this work when you don't really need it. So I was like, okay. So boom.
So you had
I
goals, you had the scholarship program, things were
mhm.
looking up, you had a job,
Mhm.
you were doing good.
I was doing great. I was
Then what
doing so
happened?
good. So, then comes a month before my
Graduation.
graduation, right?
Mhm.
But actually, I want to say before that,
Okay.
on February, dang, I graduated 2022. Yeah, so February 2022, before I graduated, it was Valentine's, and we would have this routine of every weekend, once like our relationship got like official and stuff, every weekend he would pick me up from work on Friday night. I would have my bags packed and we would spend overnight weekends at my mom's.
Okay.
So we were there Saturday, Sunday,
Mhm.
and he had his car, so sometimes like we would go to the beach or we would go wherever or
Mhm.
just like chill with my mom.
Yeah.
And there was on February, I think for Valentine's, he had given me a ring and a necklace.
Okay.
So with those things, obviously as a girl, the whole like, oh, promise ring,
Mhm.
like
Like it's a
it
big
was
little
a
moment.
dream,
Yeah.
and then like I said, like this was a person I still hadn't looked into what he was doing with like the little like you said, like the whole school, my friends, like
Yeah.
all of those things I wasn't paying too much attention to. But that the ring and like, oh my god, I've always wanted to have like a promise ring, so I was like, oh my god, I'm thinking this is great, this is amazing,
Mhm.
boom, then comes a month before I turn 18, which is in May,
Mhm.
and it was his birthday. Early that morning, he had picked me up from my foster house. We had the day planned. We went to the beach, we went shopping, and at that time I was working at Baskin Robbins,
Okay.
and I remember I had made his cake. I still wasn't trained in cake decorating or any of that, but I tried and I did so good. So I made him the cake,
Yeah.
and
You must have been so proud of yourself.
I was like so excited for him to see it.
Can
And
I just
then
put some quick context in before you
yeah.
continue? Just again, it's for the viewers to like clarify this. Again, me and Wendy were living in different foster homes, but also during the time that you met him, this was during the year, a whole year, before, I believe it was between when me and mom weren't speaking.
Mm.
I had gone a whole year. I had cut off mom for a whole year. Therefore, I cut you off for a whole year.
Mhm.
Um, so during this time that she met her ex, like
Mhm.
I had no clue who he was. Mom had met him.
Mhm.
Obviously, you guys spent nights at her. But God, I always say God only knows why I never met him, because I think I would have lost it. I think I would have gone to jail for murder right then and there.
Mm.
Um but yeah, just to provide that context that you and him would spend the night at mom's, but I wasn't around because I never met him and I had cut off mom. I was slowly starting to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
you had decorated his cake. You were so
yeah.
proud of it.
So
Working at
after
Baskin Robbins.
the beach, we went to the mall, and then after that we went back up to where I stayed at
Mhm.
to go pick up the cake from my work. I was so excited like to show up to work with my little mans and to get his cake. So we went, we got it, and then after that he was living in a hotel.
Okay.
Now, now that we're talking about his housing situation a little bit, like I said, when I had met him, he was in the foster care system, right?
Mhm.
Um, he had, and this is where we're gonna get into his background a little bit.
Mhm.
He had told me that the reason why he ended up in the system, right? Because I was curious, like, why are you here? Um, he said that he had a different lifestyle in Sinaloa. He grew up very fast, and his examples growing up weren't good. They were very aggressive, very negative, very not good influences for a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and working for a specific group of people in
Which
Sinaloa.
we're not gonna mention just
Yeah,
for safety
it's for safety reasons.
reasons.
And so he had said, something had got wrong. He had gotten shot up, and he had basically he passed and came back. Now this plays a big part because later on I'll explain why, but he had said that, he had woken up, he was in the hospital, he couldn't walk anymore. He had like a scar going like through his stomach. He had like a bag, like his
Mhm.
intestine was out. He couldn't use the restroom. Like he was miracle of God that he made it out. Miracle of God that he's still walking today.
Mhm.
So he said that when that all happened, after he got better, he crossed over by himself because he no longer wanted to be a part of that group. He no longer wanted to work for them. He wanted something different in his life. So he came over looking for a fresh start. And as soon as he got here, he didn't tell me what it was, but he said that he had gone caught up and that officers had found him by himself, and they asked him if he had any family, and he said no, so they put him in the system, and that's how he ended up in that classroom.
Okay.
So when we were getting his cake, right, he had mentioned to me that beforehand, right, for all his birthdays beforehand, he was never around family.
Mhm.
That the year beforehand, which was when he had turned 17 or 16, he was in jail or in juvie, because his mom had put him there. And that's why I explained a little bit of his background because of those things. His mom put him into the juvenile detention to get him from that group,
Yeah.
that group that he was in.
Yeah, that he was associated with.
So, I love making people happy. I love making people feel seen.
Mhm.
So when I made when we were planning his birthday, like I really wanted him to feel like you may not have family here. Your story is amazing and crazy, and he had told me like when he came over here, he was already working, or no, he got a job and he was working, which is why he was no longer in the I don't know if this is going to make sense, but like I said, that's how he got into the system. But then once he turned 18, which was exactly a month beforehand, I want to say like a couple weeks beforehand, he got out of the system, or I don't know what he did because he was still in it. It's confusing. But he was no longer underneath a foster parent's roof. And he already had a job. So he was renting, or no, he was like going to different hotels and paying for them and like sleeping there.
Yeah.
So after the cake, we went in there. We went into his room, the hotel room, and I remember I had tried to decorate it, and we were taking pictures of him with the cake, and he just looked so happy. Then he went on to like that's the thing, like they display such emotion that's just like it's just crazy. But he got sentimental, and he was just acting very grateful, very yeah, very grateful.
Mhm.
And he was just like, "Thank you." Like, I've never been celebrated like this. Like, and I was just reassuring him, like, "Hey, even though your family isn't here, like, I hope you know that like you have people that care about you and that love you." And this wasn't the first time that I had made him feel that way.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember, but one oh no, you actually weren't there. Um, for Thanksgiving, obviously I had said that was in like February, or no, that was in like May. So if we go back, um honestly, this was like in the beginning before we even made things official. I had learned his story, and I was like, wow, like this is I kind of got inspiration from it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is a person that had a rough life, that went through some stuff, that God gave you a second opportunity of life. Literally, you died and came back. You're doing good for yourself. You have your own job. You crossed over because you have a dream and you're doing good. Like, you're working, you're still taking care of your family. I was really giving this man his props because this is the man that I thought, and like I said, how he treated me, like, it was a picture, a person that was like deserved to be inspired. Like, I was just
Yeah.
inspired. I was like, wow, like, you're really doing this on your own. Um and because of his whole family thing, I had invited him to our grandma's house for a Thanksgiving
Mhm.
because I knew what it felt like to grow up in the system and have to